A newborn elephant calf, barely 90 pounds, was trapped in deep water and slowly drowning while its herd stood by, powerless to help. One man climbed in to save it with his bare hands. But what the herd did once the calf was safe is something nobody standing there that night will ever forget. Watch till the end. Frank had worked the night shift at the Handapangala estate for 11 years, and in that time he'd learned that the wiwa, the old irrigation tank at the edge of the rubber lines, made a different sound depending on the season. In April, before the rains, it was almost silent, just frogs and the occasional splash of a monitor lizard sliding off the bank. In October, when the monsoon finally broke, it groaned. Water moving against concrete has a particular groan to it, low and constant, like something trying to clear its throat. That October, the rains came hard and fast, 3 days of it without much of a break. And on the third night, Frank heard something under the groan of the water that didn't belong there. He almost didn't go to check. His knees ached from the damp, and there was a reason estate workers were told never to go near elephants after dark, storm or no storm. There'd been an incident 2 years back, a worker from the next estate over who wandered too close to a bull in Must and spent 6 weeks in the hospital because of it. Everyone on the estate knew that story, but the sound kept coming, high and ragged, cutting through the rain, and after a while Frank couldn't convince himself it was a frog or a bird or his own tired ears playing tricks. He took the torch and went, telling himself he'd just look. Nothing more, just check and come back. What he found at the tank's edge was chaos he hadn't expected. 6, maybe 7 elephants, pacing the bank in the downpour, their shapes barely visible except when lightning cracked the sky open for a second. And in the water, pinned against the concrete lip where the bank dropped almost straight down, a calf, small, struggling in a way that didn't look like struggling anymore so much as just barely staying afloat. Frank knew enough about elephants to know what he was looking at. A calf that young, maybe 3 or 4 months old at most, couldn't have weighed more than 90 pounds soaking wet. Its trunk still doing that uncoordinated flopping thing baby elephants do before they learn to use it properly. It wouldn't survive long in cold, moving water against a wall it had no grip on. Asian elephant calves can actually swim from very early on, better than people assume, but swimming isn't the problem when there's nothing to climb out onto. The tank's sides had been poured decades ago, straight and smooth, built for water storage, not for animals, and the water level had risen at least 2 feet since the storm started. He should have gone back for help first. He knew that even as he was doing the opposite thing, running back toward the tool shed instead, grabbing rope and a flashlight and anything else his hands found in the dark, then wading down the muddy slope toward the water with the beam swinging wildly, shouting toward the plantation bungalows behind him, hoping someone would hear. The mother elephant. He assumed it was the mother. She was the one closest to the calf, trumpeted in a way that didn't sound angry so much as raw, didn't charge him. Not yet. She watched him come. He would think about that a long time afterward, how she let him get close enough to try, how her whole body seemed coiled and ready to move but somehow didn't. There wasn't a plan, not really. He had rope from the estate's tool shed, thin nylon stuff meant for tying tarps, and a plank he dragged down from a half-built fence section nearby. His first attempt failed almost immediately. He wedged the plank at an angle into the water, hoping the calf might find purchase on it, but the mud underneath gave way, and the whole thing slid sideways into the tank with a splash that sent the herd into another round of panicked trumpeting. Frank swore, hauled the plank back out, and tried again, this time driving it deeper into the bank before letting the calf near it. He looped the rope under the calf's chest the way you'd sling a hammock, though his hands were shaking so badly from the cold and the adrenaline that he wasn't sure the knot would hold. The calf, exhausted as it was, still had enough fight left to twist away from him once, and Frank went under for a second himself, swallowing water, coming up gasping with mud in his eyes. By the time 2 other workers, Denise and a younger man named Mike, came stumbling down through the rain with more rope, Frank had been in the water up to his waist for what felt like an hour, but was probably 15 minutes. The calf had stopped fighting quite as hard. Its eyes had gone glassy in the torchlight, and Frank remembers thinking, with a kind of flat dread, that they might be too late. They weren't. It took the three of them pulling together, the plank scraping and slipping, mud everywhere, Mike losing his footing once and scraping his forearm badly enough on the concrete lip that he'd need stitches later, before the calf finally got a leg up and over the edge, collapsing half onto the bank, half still in the water, breathing in these enormous heaving gasps. And that was when things went wrong in a different way. The mother came forward fast, faster than any of them expected, ears out, trunk up, and Frank, soaked, exhausted, still crouched at the water's edge, didn't have time to properly get out of the way. He has told this part of the story fewer times than the rest of it, because it's the part where he thought, quite clearly, that he might not walk away from that tank. Denise would say later that she'd never heard a sound like the one that Mother made, something between a scream and a roar that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than her throat. What happened next is the part nobody in the village quite believes, even now. The largest of the elephants, an older female Frank later learned was likely the matriarch, moved between the charging mother and him. Not gently, she shoved her body sideways, hard enough that the mother stumbled and had to catch herself in the mud. There was a sound, not quite a trumpet, lower than that, more of a rumble that Frank felt in his chest before he heard it in his ears, and the mother pulled back. Just like that, she turned instead toward her calf, nosing at it frantically, checking it the way you'd check a child after a bad fall, and the two of them moved a few feet away, while the matriarch stood there another moment, watching Frank in the rain, before she too turned and walked off toward the tree line. He didn't move for a long time after that. Denise had to pull him up by the arm, and even then his legs weren't entirely cooperating. Nobody in the village made a big story out of it the way you might expect. There wasn't a crowd, no one clapped, no newspapers came. Frank went home soaked and shaking and slept for 11 hours, and the estate manager docked nothing from his pay because, as he put it, you weren't exactly working, were you? Mike got his stitches the next morning and wore the scar afterward like a badge, though he complained about it plenty at the time. It became one of those stories that gets told slowly, over months, in pieces, usually after a few drinks over dinner, usually starting with, "You know what happened at the tank that October?" The calf lived. Estate workers spotted the herd twice more that dry season, moving along the old cart track that ran past the rubber lines, the calf noticeably bigger each time, walking dead center of the group the way calves do once the adults have decided they need extra watching. By the following spring, it had put on enough weight that Frank almost didn't recognize it, and only knew for certain when he spotted the faint scar along its side, where the rope had rubbed the skin raw that night. Frank still works the night shift. He still doesn't much like the sound the tank makes when the rains come. But there's one thing he mentions sometimes, almost as an afterthought, usually right at the end of the telling, when people expect him to say something about gratitude or how animals know more than we think. He just says that for about 2 seconds that night, he was more afraid of the mother than he'd ever been of anything in his life. And the only reason he's still around to tell it is that another elephant decided he wasn't the one who deserved that fear.